everybody, it's Anne. Welcome to Painting Big. Well, no, it's not Painting Big, it's Pro Tips. Wow, you can tell I'm only at half my caffeine. Oh, apologies. Here I am. More or less. Let's see, where am I? There I am. I'm good. All right, so yeah, it's a morning. It's definitely morning. I was definitely running late this morning due to small dog things. Tiny little dog who just moments before I launched this stream was pouncing on her squeaky ball and squeaking it incessantly. So I was thinking it was going to be a squeaky ball stream. But apparently me hitting the live button is the key for Kiri to like conk out and just like go flat on the floor and fall asleep. She doesn't think I'm very exciting. Good morning. Let's see who we got. Yeah, Max Powers. What happened is I moved to California, and then my stream time got slid because it's early out here. So I didn't have to get up at 6:30, which really is just like makes for a very bad day for me for various reasons. I actually asked the bosses if I could start the stream a little bit later, so it'll be 11:30 Central Time rather than the 11 Central Time. So that makes it a little easier, and even then, with Kiri and being in an apartment now, if I have to rush her out a second time, everything gets kind of clamped together, and yeah, so it gets kind of... we haven't missed a stream yet. We haven't had a Kiri emergency yet. Crossing my fingers there. Yeah, that's exactly. How am I doing? I'm a little slow today. I've only had half my caffeine, and I only had time for half my breakfast. So I'm here. I'm here, and I'll improve as the stream goes on. That's about it. Otherwise, I'm in a great mood. It's a little cold here. I'm surprised. Like, I guess South Bay I thought was warmer than I know San Francisco is really cold and tends to be very moist. But here it's actually been like, around the 60-degree mark, and in the afternoon it gets really nice. It gets like almost 70, but it's quite chilly in the morning and evening here. I hadn't expected it, so I'm adjusting to my new climate. It's an adventure. But yeah. Yeah, the on-air light. I don't know. It was really funny though, because she was so excited she pounced on her squeaky ball. She likes me streaming in the mornings because it means she gets her nap. When all of this last week I was, of course, once the movers came on Tuesday, I was unpacking, right? So I wasn't relaxing at all, pretty much from, the 9 o'clock time or 9:30, all the way into the afternoon. I wasn't taking a break, and so she couldn't settle. She kept following me around from room to room because she always has to keep an eye on me, and it meant she didn't get her doggy nap. So Kiri was very sleepy all last week and kept giving me stink eye because I kept moving. So she is super happy to be just crashed on her pillow next to me right now. So she was super happy. She was pouncing on her ball because she was happy. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yes, it's all the moisture. Well, I do my skin and hair love this climate. I was afraid it was going to be drier too, and it wasn't. It's actually quite nice. So yeah, so far I'm liking California. I really am. It'd be nicer if we weren't all on Corona, isolation, but I guess I have something to look forward to once we emerge from the fog, right? Then I can actually get out and explore a little bit, because I feel like it's funny. I moved to a new place, and what am I doing? I'm sitting at home. It's so weird, right? So yeah, we absolutely will look forward to the time when we can actually get out and explore the new environment. Miss Dimp, she has not quite. She's getting there though. When I first tried to close the door when I was streaming, she was a little concerned because she couldn't keep an eye on David. So yes, she is adopting David as part of the pack. So she does go and check on him from time to time if the doors are all open and we're sitting in two different rooms, because I'm working in the in what is our hobby room, i.e. the office, and then he's working out at the kitchen table. She will definitely go between us. So she's adopting him. He doesn't take her for walks, but he feeds her sometimes. So she's like, oh, all right. Yes, Miss Dimp, you're right on. That's exactly what Shilohs do also. They absolutely try to find the one spot. And if the door was open right now, she would be able to triangulate and see both of us. So, all right. Let's see. Good morning, Valandar. Good morning. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't pick out everybody to say individual good mornings this morning. Blame the lack of caffeine. You love everyone. Hi, Bug Lips. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's good to see you. Yes, feeding is a good way to make friends. Me too.
Whoa, Bug Lips.
Yeah, it's Bug Lips. It's a wild poof. A wild Bug Lips appears. That's a rare.
I also haven't seen Quindy in a while either. Now
Yeah.
that I think about it, I haven't seen Quindy or Bug Lips. Where
Yeah,
have you guys
well,
been? We missed you, right in?
yes, we absolutely miss Bug Lips. Hey, I'm going to go to Minicam so that we can get this stream on the road. There we go. So there's your graveyard columns, guys. Remember, these are kind of cool. You should get a couple. All right, I'm going to set up all my colors. Now I'm talk about. There's a plague on. You got to make the most of it. Yes. Hi, Janky. So obviously we're going to start with black on this. But we're not going to start just with black, because I like to do it a little different. So guys, let's talk about iron. So I'm going to do this. Okay, the easy way to do this, I should start out by saying, the super, super easy way to do iron is to just use Adamantium Black, which is 9124 in the core line. Adamantium Black is a black metallic. So if you are just looking for super easy, get it down on your wrought iron gate or fence or whatever you are painting, that is a good option for you. I have to find my
Miss
pokey tool.
Ann, sorry
Yes?
not to interrupt you real quick. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
send you a text message and I'm gonna need you to read it.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Phone. Okay. Send me a text message. This could be super secret or it could just be silly.
It should know. It's super secret. You can keep doing what you're doing. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
saying, like when I
All
text you,
right.
just answer it.
All right, cool. So we'll actually put my phone over here, and I'm missing my pokey tool, guys. Oh, there it is! Yay! It just got a little bit buried in my drawer. Now that things are unpacked. Oh yeah, well, welcome, Jotun, or Jotun, I guess it's Jotun Wolf, or we could just call you Fenrir, which is an excellent name. But yeah, we do streams, and I'm a little bit like laggy, streamy this morning because I'm. Oh yeah. Adamantium is good for that non-zero. It's a really good one. Hi, Iggy. So yeah, we do streams, and in the mornings it is me, Anne, and I created the Master Series paint line for Reaper, and I also served as staff painter for Reaper and did a whole bunch of other stuff for Reaper. And then I moved to California to be with my guy last week, and or 2 weeks ago, and so now I'm doing remote streaming for Reaper. So it's nice to have been with Reaper. I've been with Reaper 17 years. Gives you an idea how long they have tolerated my presence. Let's see here.
Also, Bug Lips Proctor's stream is later today. His first episode. It should be about 4 o'clock Central, I think, is what we agreed upon. However, he wanted it to be. He thought it was 4 o'clock his time. It was kind of a misconception between the two of us. But right now we're shooting for 4 p.m. Central. I think
4 p.m. Central.
our time. Yeah, so 3 p.m. his. However, it could change an hour later. But yes, it's going to be Proctor
Nope.
Tuesdays.
Proctor Tuesdays.
Now we haven't really come up with a cute name yet. There's no alliteration yet or anything like that. But
Proctor Projects.
I agree, Chibi. It's those damn time zones. They're why can't it just be the same time all the time?
Willbot has a question for me. 17 years wavy. Yes, I don't get that for murder. Willbot. Oh gosh. I really like the new giants a lot. Whenever we come out with a new giant, I get very excited. I also like a couple of the new dragons. I painted the Swampy Dragon for Reaper, which I don't remember his name. I also like Shivinra, the one that Aaron Lovejoy was putting some paint down for us. So yeah, I like the big stuff for Bones. I generally think that the large models, especially the giants, are just look so good in the Bones material, and it's just they're just big and a joy to paint. So for me, it's the big stuff. Although not quite as big as a pirate ship. That's a little bit too big for me. Alrighty. So what I'm doing here is I actually mixed a little bit of blue and green into my black. If you guys want the shortcut for this, if you have the holiday paints, then I think it's coal black is your go-to, as it has teal in it. And I'm trying to think of if we've got another. Not really. Essentially, why the reason I like to add some cool colors to wrought iron is, or cast iron, either wrought iron, cast iron, same deal. Uh, is that usually, even though it's a flat black usually with just a little bit of a glossy finish, that finish picks up sky color and earth color a lot, so greens and blues. And so we're used to seeing those colors reflecting off of cast iron stuff and wrought iron fences and things like that. So I find that if I don't want to go just with a boring black, then mixing in a little green and blue is a good idea, or using coal black, which already has green and blue in it. The two colors that I'm using today for that are going to be cyan blue and peacock green. So I added 6 drops. I normally work in 8-drop puddles, remember, so that my stuff stays wet. So 6 drops of pure black, 1 drop of peacock, and 1 drop of cyan. And now, if I wanted to even bring those colors out a little bit, freestyle, give me a second. Let me just demo this, and then I'll get to you. I'm going to add just a small drop of white. If you mix colors into black, obviously you're not going to be able to necessarily see them right away, but if you add a little bit of white, you can see the tint a little bit. So I'm going to work with that. I added just a little bit of white. Okay, so now, best way to thin out metallics for the sake of keeping them from drying out. I would use a mixture of water and gloss sealer, actually. Freestyle, we make a gloss sealer that works very well. You don't want to add too much of it because you are going to thin coverage, and a lot of metallics don't have great coverage to begin with. To be honest, I usually just use water, but I just use a tiny bit of it because you don't need to thin very much to get a nice smooth base coat. Some of the colors, like I'm gonna start base coating this. Some of our colors, like the new Bones Metallic silvers, are actually extremely thinnable. Like if you use a bit of flow improver and water and you thin them down, they should stay in solution pretty well. I tested them when we started getting those new flakes. But some of the other flakes aren't as fine as that, and they're not able to be thinned as much. So with bone silvers, you should be able to get away with thinning them if you really want to thin them. Like if you want a finer effect when you're highlighting with them, if you're trying to stipple or whatever, and you want it to be more blended. So our black covers great, even adding those greens and blues. I'm painting directly over green stuff. It's not a big deal. And I did add a little bit of water to this, but just a little. I can still see my texture that I laid down with the green underneath. I think I'm going to do this top part too. Haven't decided. I think these little skulls that out here are going to be bronze instead of iron. Let's see here. Oh, black sting. Yeah, the black sting is very nice. Yes, that would totally kill your wrists. Look out for the Future floor polish there, Miss Stimp. Just make sure you're not a brush licker. Future is not non-toxic and should not be ingested. And so I don't use it for that reason. I don't want to ever, knowing how absent-minded I am, I don't want to put stuff into myself, that has a high toxicity. So I use art products that are, not that. I tend to use more art products that I know more what's in them. But that was what always kept me away from Future in the past, because the thing is that people were using Future to build great washes, but it's not non-toxic, and if your kid gets a hold of that, it's just, I just don't endorse floor polish for paint. Plus, it's not really formulated. I mean, it is an acrylic polish, but, I don't know. I always kind of shied away from those kind of things where you're using something formulated to do something else. In your paint. You just don't know how the paint is going to react, and you don't know what necessarily is in it. So just be careful. Essentially, just be careful. I mean, your decisions are your own as far as what products you use, but do keep all that in mind, right, when you choose to use a product. All right, there we go. Good. Well, then you're safe, but just be careful. Yeah, Fenrir Meldicar is awesome. I have a resin one, and I've been waiting for time to convert it and paint it. I should have that time now that I'm out here. This is just a flat. It's actually it's it's a Kalish actually, which is a kind of a lower grade of Galinsky. It would be similar to say a Reaper number 2 flat. I would normally use a Taclon, but I had this brush sitting around. It was already kind of annoyed. I'd misused it already, so I decided to sacrifice it to be my mixing brush. It's also flats, as I have mentioned before, are very good for terrain because they cover obviously a lot of space very fast. They hold more paint, and for flat surfaces like this, they're quite handy. So the Reaper number 2 flat, that is a Taclon, which is the plastic, the red handle. Those are very inexpensive, and so if you do terrain a lot, I do recommend picking up a flat, maybe even the number 4 flat, which is bigger than this, and using it because I really enjoy using flats on terrain. They find they cover more territory faster, give me a smooth coat. Let's see. Yeah, Valandar. A lot of those, the Games Workshop did what, an Emperor Dragon back in the day, but it honestly it collapsed under the weight of its own, it collapsed under its own weight over time. It's just metal dragons were just not really optimal, and I'm kind of glad we got away from them a bit. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna do some rusty effects. Maybe I'll do some highlighting real quick first, while we wait for that to dry. Yeah, there was some crazy stuff. That's back when lead was really cheap, too. Ed can tell you. Ask Ed sometime about how, tin, rather. How the price of tin has changed since Reaper began. Because that directly influences our price point. I dropped a bottle, 1 second. And part of the reason that that miniatures companies have been forced to go toward more styrene and plastic and PVC is because of the price of tin skyrocketing. Like, miniatures were much cheaper when I got in. You know, you all know this, right? When you got in, probably a lot of you got in, they were much cheaper in metal than they are now. All right, so that was 1 cyan and 1 peacock, and it makes a very pretty teal, very pretty dark teal. We'll drop a little bit of water into that. Yeah, the wings just droop. Yep. Hey there, Paul John's Life. It's good to see you. Yeah, brass rod. Yeah, Valandar, I know. Yeah, I know, right? Right, Valandar, the Space Marines. Yeah, you can really see the price creep in GW. Although they just chose not to lower prices when they went beyond that. All right, there we go. So that's a nice kind of bluish teal. If I wanted it a little more green, I could add a little more green, but that's good. Add a little black to it. Yeah, I could use that as a first highlight. Probably needs a little more blue. So I'm just mixing, because I do. And since I don't have coal black with me, I'm sucking it up and mixing my dark teal. I'm just going to do some line highlights, edge highlights up and down the pillar here, probably. I mean, it's terrain, right? So you don't need to do a lot to it. You just want it to be a little bit of detail, and then when you put your rust effects on, it'll look right. So I'm going to use the edge of my brush. Hello, Scottfield. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Glenn is. I used to work for Games Workshop not back in the dark ages, but like back around 2002. And they were still doing a lot of metal at that point, and as an employee you were able to go in and pretty much do, I think it was a kilogram of metal for $7. It was ridiculous. You could get a bloodthirster for like $6 if you were an employee. It was ridiculous. Yeah, I would just add white, Sethany. I would just add white if I was using coal black. Although I do like having a little bit of more of a richer color, so coal black is still pretty muted, so I might even add a little bit more teal. And if I had like marine teal out, marine teal would also be a great, that would be 9077, would be a great color to use for this. I need glasses. So we're going to do a quick highlight, and then we're going to get, by that point, everything should be dry, and we can get into the rust. So I'm loaded up my brush. I didn't thin my paint very much. You can see it's pretty thick. But I got most of the paint off my brush, so I could just use the edge. And I'm gonna, yeah, that's about right. Tell you what, I'm gonna actually refocus. Refocus. Ignore the palette, little camera. There we go. And I'm gonna get out some white too, because I do want some spot highlight, because this it may be an old column, but it probably still has a few shiny spots on it, and we want to pick out those details. So let's just smear some white in there. I don't mind if it's a little teal. It'll just go. When nothing else on this is going to be white, it really doesn't matter if your white is actually an off-white, because it'll still look white because it's the closest thing. Yeah, coal black is great. Coal black is great for cast iron, wrought iron. Great for these effects. So I'm just kind of getting the edge with the teal, and then I'll pick up a little bit of the white and maybe concentrate toward the top of it a little bit. And if you use a real light touch, then you can see that tiny line I've got going on, so you can be real fine with it. Ah, no, I went overboard. So you can either just use water to scrub that off, or you can paint over it. I like to be fast and use water. And the other thing you could do, if you wanted to, with this teal, if you decided there were some shinier parts up here, is there is some fine texture on this surface. You can see it when I tilt like that. And so you could actually do a little bit of stippling with your brush tip to kind of bring some of that out if you wanted to. And if you wanted to like make it like there was a light source that's specifically hitting around here, you could add a couple lighter stipples around there to kind of bring out that texture. Just real fine. If it gets a little bit overwrought, then you don't have to worry too much, because you can always go back and paint over it. Now, the other thing you can do with these light colors, and should do, is when you see these cracks in the surface, you should highlight the lower edge. And why the lower edge is because that's where the light is going to catch. So if I roll this down here, you can see that the light specifically catches the underside, the underlying edge of this crack. So that's where you put your highlight. It really helps to use an overhead light source when you're painting, because if you ever wonder where you're supposed to put your highlights, you can find out just by utilizing your light. And I can use a little white toward the upper surfaces to make that come out a little bit more. There, that's pretty good. And I can hit a little bit of that if I really want to. So making our little bits, that's a little thick, so we can just take our initial black mixture and thin it down. That's the easiest way to do a thin line, by the way, is just to do it thick and then just to use the base color to thin it by just thinning it down by painting against it. Then you can make it much more fine until you have it exactly where you want it. There. That's much better. Much more subtle. All right. Yeah, damage control is definitely, Jeffrey, I agree. I mean, that's why I'm just fast about it. When I do a blorify, I just correct it usually. Yes, Glenn, I am. Actually, I talked about that a bit earlier, other than being like isolated, so I can't go and like see all the fancy new restaurants and stores near me. Not really easily anyway, and many of them are closed. So once that's up, then I'll even enjoy it more, but I am really enjoying my new home. There's 2 nice parks right near here to walk in, so that's very nice. Alrighty, so we got all of that. Now we can go to this corrosion effect that we did yesterday. So let me get it in the light so you can see the chunky areas toward the bottom that I put in with green stuff. And note, I am just painting right over the green stuff. You really don't need to prime green. Once it's cured, you can just paint right over it. The only exception, as I noted yesterday, is when you have... If you put the green on something, it's going to get picked up a lot. Like here, maybe if people are going to pick up on the column, maybe I could have primed there. I could also just seal it if I felt like it. At the end, if I really thought maybe that rust patch would crack off or rub off once people started handling it. But as it is, let us just do some rust. All right, now I want to put a plug in here for Secret Weapon Miniatures. They have a paint line that we helped them formulate that has rust colors in it. And they are excellent rust colors. So if you want to, and you want the easy out of the bottle answer, That's a great answer. However, if you want to use MSP, I will now show you how to do rust. I think I'm going to use that, maybe some of that. We also have a color called Rust Brown. I do not currently have it in my tray, or I would whip that out. Rust Brown is a dark reddish orange color, and it would go in this triad quite well as well. But right now, the colors I'm working with are going to be Ruddy Leather, Volcanic Orange, and Sunrise Orange. And the reason that I'm using Ruddy Leather is that the first layer and the darkest layer of rust is usually a dark brown with a reddish hint. Then it goes up as it cakes. It goes up brighter and brighter orange, right? But when you're putting rust on, you want to go in layers, so you want to work from dark to light. And you'll see this in the Secret Weapons series of paints, where they have a very old rust, which is actually greenish, followed by a purpley rust, a brown rust, a red rust, and then orange and yellow rust. And different colors of rust are usually seen on different types of alloys of metal. But for iron, usually you're seeing like a brown, a red, and orange. So I can get out a clear red or any other red, and let's see, what would I want to use? Maybe we'll use Amadeus. I do love Amadeus Red of the Pathfinder line. That is probably my favorite Pathfinder color. So we want to make it kind of look like that, bring it up like that. And you don't have to use this many colors if you don't want to, but if you want to have some fun with your rust, like, go for it. Yeah, if I had Rust Brown, I would definitely use it instead of Volcanic. But I will use Volcanic because I know what's in it, and I think it will work just fine. So let me grab my mixing brushes, and I'm going to throw some water into my existing paints so that they don't dry up, because I might need them later if I want to play around. The nice thing also about using peacock green in this initial mixture is that I also am going to use peacock green for verdigris on the little skulls when we get there. All right, so these guys are nice and wet. They're going to stay there for a while. So let's do Ruddy Leather first. We'll make a little triangle of colors there. Keep our pillar in frame. Yes, you guys. Haha. Presenting class on highlighting, wasn't sure if people are interested. Glenn, yeah, I mean, how do I know? Yeah, well, what you could do is, if you really want to, is you could do highlight placement, Glenn. If that's specifically what you're going to teach. I find that the more specific you are in your title, the better results you get, because your students know what to expect to come in when they come in. Because the worst thing ever is when you're going to teach a class at ReaperCon, you're all excited, and then two students are like, oh, I thought this was a class about blah, because maybe your title wasn't quite as specific, and so they had a misconception. So I would highly recommend becoming very specific in your title. Don't put it all in the description. Most people, sadly, don't read them. I'm going to put a drop of Amadeus into that Ruddy Leather. And get real specific about your title, so that you know that the people who come to your class are definitely looking for, like, how to place your highlights on a model. So essentially what you're teaching them is, like, maybe zenithal highlighting or whatever you're going to do, whatever specific type of highlighting you're going to work on. So yeah, that's my tip for ReaperCon class titles, because I do know somebody who a student got, mad because they'd paid for the class, and they just didn't understand, the title wasn't very specific, and they thought it was going to be on a different topic. So, and we refund people's money for classes if they really are unhappy and it wasn't what they wanted. But, it's better if you don't have to deal with that as an instructor, of course. All right, so I'm mixing Amadeus Red and Volcanic Orange to get kind of a nice middle rusty color. Then we'll get Volcanic Orange and Fireball Orange, Sunrise Orange. Blending is not necessarily highlighting, though. Okay, so Glenn, here's the dealio. So when I do a blending class, I usually don't even call it blending. I call it specifically layering, or blending, layering, and glazing. So blending, layering, and glazing. That way people know it's a blending class, but it's not a wet blending class. If you're doing blending in general, are you also covering shadow placement? Those are the things to think about. So think about like what your title says to somebody, and are you going to cover all of that? Like if you have a blending class, is it a survey of blending where you're covering wet blending and wet on dry blending, or are you only covering layering, or are you doing something completely different? So usually I advise people to be very specific in their title. If blending, what kind of blending? You know, if highlighting, is that all you're covering? Is it zenith highlighting? There are other techniques to highlight. So whatever you do is up to you. Just make sure that you've got it specific. And that also helps you as a teacher, because then it lets you outline the class a little bit easier. Lord, the HD line got canceled, and then there was a bit of a... people were sad, and some of the colors were already in paint sets and wanted to be in future paint sets. So we ended up bringing back just the colors that sold well or were particularly useful and putting them on the end of the Bones line. The line just was not selling, so Ed made the executive decision to let it go. He compared the sales to existing Core and to Bones, and the sales were just not doing it. So, and that happens to product lines. So that's why. Let me grab my lantern yellow. All right. So yeah, that's what happened at HD. But yeah, a lot of them came back. If you look at the end of the Bones line, which is the 9400s, you'll see a few of them. Let's see. Actually, non-zero, that's not true. Bones was created before DC was canceled. And Bones was always meant to be a partner with HD. Like Bones and HD, if you put them together, are a fantastic 108 color set. And that's the way they were meant to be, but unfortunately it was hard to market that idea. And so HD ended up being canceled because Bones, I had just more knowledge base and a bit of new technology, and so Bones was definitely the line I felt was superior, and sales backed that up. So that would be... but they were not created to replace the other. Bones was always meant to work with HD. I was very sad when HD was canceled for that reason. Meadow green, yes. Sorry, non-zero. I was like, I just want it to be straight because I don't want it ever to... There's already enough talk of, will Bones replace everything? And the answer is, I don't know anymore, but that was never the intention. Like when I create a paint line, I want it to be useful. And I want it to be useful, beyond its inception. I'm not ever trying to replace a line with another line. That's not very efficient. Honestly, if I was going to do that, I would cancel the first line first, and then I would reformulate everything, right? And create new colors. But yeah. So for me, it's like, I'm never aiming to replace. I'm always aiming to, we're going to do a new line. How can I make it different? How can I improve? How can I make it really accessible? And I mean, I learned a lot about paint line creation, as did Reaper, throughout my process of working for Reaper. So how can I integrate that knowledge and make it a better line? So, all right, we're going to start out with red, and we're going to paint over. Usually I'll just stipple. So little tiny brush strokes with the tip of the brush. And I'm using my mixture of Ruddy Leather and Amadeus Red, which is a nice brown. As you can see, it's a brownish red. So that's a good kind of surface coating for rust. And I'll probably go a little bit outside of the texture that I sculpted, because there will be rust, that's not built up enough to create texture yet. It's only going to be caked on where it's really pooling, and the cakey areas are probably going to go mostly orange when I'm done. So I'm going to put some red up a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Now you guys can see it. I want to get my light down a little bit, see if we can make that a little better. Sadly, the window light is working against us here. I bet I can do that. There we go. Now you can see. Sometimes we just need to adjust our lighting a bit. So I'm going to put some red even up above this area, and I'm just going to stipple it. So I'm just using little tiny dots because the rust would bloom like that. And carry that red up a bit because I know that this cakey part is going to be mostly orange. But I still do want the red there because I want the red in the cracks down there. So cakey and red. Yeah, thanks, I corrected. Yeah, ask around Fenrir on our Facebook. Get some recommendations of colors for people. We do put out a starter set that's I think 11 or 12 colors. That's in our online store. That's a good starting set. The other really good tactic if you're learning to paint is to pick up our Learn to Paint kits. The first one and the second one. And those give you a nice selection of starting colors. All right, so I'm going to go in with my reddish orange now, which is volcanic orange with a bit of Amadeus red. And I'm going to, again, kind of stipple over. And this time I'm going to leave some of the initial red here and there. I'm going to concentrate on the thickest areas with this orange. And maybe I'll just put a couple of tiny spots where I put the red up above to suggest that it's starting to cake up a little. You can do a fair bit to suggest texture just using paint. So... let's get that on there. Mostly covering up my red start. So now we get some nice red brown going on. Yeah, Dogfather, it is hard to see. Now it should be a little bit easier because I put on the immediate light right on my camera, which is helping a bit. Let's see here. Let me see if I can get it even closer to you guys. 1 second. Up there. Come on, get on the thing. Now focus. There we go. So now you can see. I will try to keep it. You can see how much the outdoor light, really... Maybe I need a blocker. I don't have a screen that's handy that I can grab, sadly. Okay, for next stream, we will find a way to block our light a little bit. All right. Yeah, I mean, I was self-taught too, Mac Balance, and it definitely, took me longer to learn techniques than now with all the internets and resources and everything. The Learn to Paint kits are really nice. Rhonda Bender wrote them. She's another one of our staff painters, and Rhonda is very exhaustive, and she has a very clear writing style, and her examples are great. So I would highly recommend them. I think she did a fantastic job on them. The first one, which is more of a basic set, Layer Up is the advanced one, so don't get that one right away. The first one covers like dry brushing, washing, and all those basic techniques, but it's also just really well explained, and she talks about ratios. And how thick or thin you want your paint, to get the effect. And she's just really, really good at putting that down in words. And then Layer Up, which is the more advanced one, that covers layering and blending, and is also very good, but it's definitely a more advanced set. So just keep that in mind, depending on what you want, depending on what you feel your level is. Here we go. There we go. Better. All right, Velendar. No, you cannot get the Learn to Paint instructions without the kit. You have to buy the kit. The kit is at a heavy discount already, frankly, so it's not a bad buy. Yeah, Hydromain, since the dawn of time, people have been asking us to print the instructions and sell them separately, and we just never have really believed in that. There are a lot of resources on the web for you to learn how to paint, including these streams. So we just prefer to keep the Learn to Paint kit, and that's what it is. It would be nice eventually if we could put out a painting book that would have, some material that you could just purchase if you just want instructions and have paint, as you mentioned. So, all right, so that's looking decent. We've got our rust is caking up nicely. Now I'm going to switch to my brighter orange, which is mostly sunrise orange with just a touch of volcanic. And here I just want to I really want to concentrate on the really thick parts. And I have a little bit too much paint on my brush. When you see really big puddles like that coming off your brush, that means you've loaded up too much. So if you want finer dots, you want to kind of tune that down, take some paint off your brush. Yeah, it'd be cool to do a Learn to Paint book series. That's a great idea, Numbat. Just like a series of thinner books that cover different techniques. Yeah. Yeah, there weren't, me too, Wavy. I mean, there were websites, but not really good painting tutorial websites. We were mostly on a Yahoo group. The Mini Painter Yahoo group was where I started interacting with the community, but nobody was really posting pictures or tutorials. They were just describing what they were doing. And so it was very hard to learn things like layering with that. So I'm just adding little touches of this brighter orange. And so, yeah, today it's much better. I like the idea of a booklet series. It might be a little bit easier because they would be smaller. Because the big thing, people have been asking for me to write a miniature painting book for a long time. It's actually one of my Patreon goals. If we get really high, because it would take me so long to do all the photos and tutorials and all the writing and editing and the layout, all this stuff. So it is actually a very high Patreon goal. But the reason I haven't done it is just that, yeah, it takes so much time. It takes such a huge investment of resources. In the meantime, you're not getting anything else done. But someday I still hope to kind of do one, especially with the archive of knowledge I've got these days, having been painting for so dang long at this point and seen so many like techniques and technologies come and go. I'm not the most exhaustive painter. You know, there are definitely painters who are still more experienced than I am. But I think I could add something good to the hobby to do it. For those who have not looked at my Patreon, it is patreon.com/paintingbig. It is now, since I moved out here, my primary source of income, and I am grateful to all of you who are my patrons. In fact, I'm almost done with my $10 patron thing to put up today. So that should be fun. That's a brass NMM recipe that I created for a competition model. All right, so here we are. We've got some really nice, see that texture? There we go. So that's coming up very nicely. Oh, thank you, Threads of Fate. Nomadzik, I think there is a Learn to Paint Kit 3 in the works. I'm not sure about the working title for it. MCC Wrought, yeah, for my painting book, I would have to do a Kickstarter to actually fund it, like fund the publishing. But doing a Kickstarter for the writing it seemed to fit better with the Patreon for me, because it is an ongoing project that's probably going to take at least a year. And so Kickstarter for me would be, once I have it done and I need to publish a good quality book, that's very expensive. So that would be what I would kickstart. But the actual like production of the tutorials and the sections and the writing and all the stuff, that I think would be something that I would do via the Patreon when we got to a certain point where I was making enough money with the Patreon where I could afford to spend 3 or 4 hours a day just working on the book. That made more sense to me, because the problem with a Kickstarter is if you do that Kickstart and then you use that to pay yourself while you're doing all this work, your patrons still have to wait for a year and a half, 2 years to get the final product. Whereas if I just wait until I hit a higher Patreon cap where I make enough money where I can afford to allocate that time, then you guys don't have to wait, because by the time I kickstart it, I've got it all written. We're just kickstarting the actual publication, and that's a lot faster. So if I did a Kickstarter, having seen and understand that I've been with Reaper through all the Bones Kickstarters, so I've seen the pain and suffering that Kickstarter can engender, I think it would be a much better experience and much more manageable to get all of the writing and layout done beforehand, then kickstart the actual production. And it would take a lot. It would mean being a Kickstarter hell a lot less longer, because also you have to allocate time with Kickstarter to answer all your comments and make sure that you're doing updates and doing all that stuff. I've learned a lot about Kickstarter working for Reaper. It was really a good education watching how we adapted over the years. So yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Everlina. Oh, hey, Ty. Thanks for that sub. Yay, Justin. Note down another sub toward our AMA.
Yes, thank you, Tara, for the sub.
Yeah, so yeah, I forget which, I mentioned yesterday which person, and this is actually a topic from the AMA, guys, from our last AMA. Somebody had one of the fence sections and wanted to know how to paint good wrought iron fence, and so here we are with rust. Wanted to make a really rusty one. Now, if I wanted to really rust this out, I'm going to add a little white to my yellow here. Then I would be doing rust, a lot more rust up and down, right? So let's do this little top section, actually. Because I did put a texture around this rusty section here. So we're going to paint it red. Right around the areas that I made very chunky. There we go. Yeah, me too, Schmid. I've subbed to a couple that didn't, and so that's why I think if I do the painting book as a Kickstarter, the answer is definitely to do it, to fund the production of it through my Patreon goals, and then to do the actual Kickstart just for production. I think that would make everybody's sanity level stay at a decent level, instead of making me never want to like touch a Kickstarter again, because I've seen how Kickstarter impacts sanity levels. I don't want to go there. All right, so we got some nice red around there. Um, yeah, exactly. Yeah. 5 minutes late on delivery and people freak out. Yeah, I do not want to be that Kickstarter person. I want to be the Kickstarter person who's really prepared and can document the whole process and can give, nice frequent updates over the course of like the 6 months it takes to produce and fulfill, and then be done with it until the next one, if there's next one. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to start polling people if we got, once we start getting a bit higher on the Patreon, I'll have to start polling people and see what they would prefer, right? A series of small books, or one big monster, everything Anne knows about miniature painting that you were afraid to ask kind of book. All right, we're going to do the bright orange now. Cake it bright around this crack, right? Because this crack is where a lot of fluid has accumulated, so you're going to get the bright cakey orange right around there. So build it up, build the sunrise orange up mixture a lot more around where it's cracked. And then maybe we'll take a bit of our yellow. I wanted to mix a little white into it to get it a little more opaque, because rust is so very opaque. It's not transparent at all. So I wanted to, and then I can hit just a little tiny bit of yellow just on the underside of that. See how that makes it bring out. And then just a tad, a little bit of yellow up top, like that. Like so. Yeah, small books might be the way to go. Oh, wow. Yeah. See, I do not want to be that Kickstarter. I've learned a lot from Reaper, and I would definitely probably ask Ed for advice on how to do this, should it go forward ever. And I don't want to be, I just, I've worked so hard to be a positive force in the community that I would hate to have a big Trainwreck Kickstarter essentially undermine all of that. I really want to be a positive force in the hobby. I do not want to be part of the problem. So, all right, guys, there you go. Big rusty thing. So if you really want to rust this out, you could take your red and put a lot of it up and down the column, really, really trick it out. Just splotch it on. You want a randomized texture. You do not want anything that looks regular. So go kind of like that. And make lots of splotches, and then you can kind of link up your two sets of splotches, right? This crack and everything. We can put that there, and you keep layering your reddish brown, your reddish orange, your orange, and your yellow, and you keep building it up. And just like with layering, you're leaving a little bit of your undercoat sticking out with every layer, so your highlights get smaller and smaller. And you want, when you're doing it on a flat surface like this, you want your yellow to be like at the thickest parts. Like here, it was right around the crack, right? Or maybe right in the big chunky sculpted part that you sculpted earlier. But when you get up here, where you're on a flat surface, wherever your thickest or biggest piece of rust is, that's where your brightest colors should be. Because you can assume, again, now you're creating the illusion of the chunkiness instead of having the actual chunkiness down here. But you want that illusion, and your rust would be more caked on in these big patches. That's a big touch of yellow. So let's take some orange and knock that down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And you don't necessarily all want your yellow in every little patch either. You just want it in some of your thicker patches. And then obviously up here. So there you're starting to get really rusted out. Yeah, spiral bound is what everybody wants. The problem, guys, is that spiral bound, both the edges tend to go fast, and also it's really expensive. Like, ideal painting book format would be spiral bound laminated, but that's so bloody expensive. And you'd have to have it be a really small book, and it would make it actually into a bigger book because it would thicken the pages up so much. So I don't know. I mean, we'd have to talk about it.
You'd sign one and give me one for free right in.
Absolutely, Justin. For all you've done for me.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All you've done for me, absolutely. So yeah, we're just touching up a little bit more oranginess up here.
Although I would say, and if we ever got one of those, that would be one hell of a giveaway to get
Yeah.
like one of them.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's a very high goal on my Kickstarter because it would be so expensive to produce. But yes, it would be a great giveaway if I do that eventually. I guess I should just try harder to grow my Patreon, and that way I can get faster to the book. All right, put some more red on this. So that you guys can see how I'm building this up and just making it kind of all splotchy and rusty, right? You could also just, you could choose to just paint like a whole section with this red, like just block, and then stipple the edges. Like there's a big part of this pillar that's just getting eaten by rust for some reason. Maybe it got blood splashed on it. Maybe it's gotten blood splashed on it repeatedly. And if you want a softer effect, do a wet blending. So while it's still wet, take your orange and kind of stipple it in there. There we go. There we go. But yeah, I admire the miniature painters out there that have done their own books. And whenever one comes out from one of the Europeans are great for this. They put out a fair, Alfonso put out his book, and Jeremy put out a book ages ago, and other people are putting out their painting books also. But I admire it when they do that, and I always try to pick up a copy or take a look at a copy to see what their take on it is. Because every book is different, and some people are more a biography, like Shepard Payne's book and Alfonso's, and some are more about techniques. I definitely would want to go heavier on technique. Yeah, then you're starting Real Chibi Army. The more options you put in, though, especially for Kickstarter fulfillment, the more inventory you're having to sit on and pay taxes on. And, you don't know which copy's going to sell more or better. And you're making it a lot harder for yourself because then you've got to deal with two different proofs, two different price points, two different everything. It makes it all very complicated. If you're a company, maybe that's a little bit easier. But if you're an individual person like me, it might make it really hard. I would probably just choose one. I would probably do, since it would be Kickstarter based in the first place, I would probably do a Kickstarter poll and see what option more people would actually say they would pledge for. And I would do that accordingly. I like to poll my Kickstarter. I like to actually know what people have to say. So there you go. So there were a couple of thin cracks on here that I was able to accentuate by putting rust on it. So yeah, so you can also just paint a big section of rust on and just stipple out at the edges to make it look like, it's just gotten very wet. Yeah, exactly. The real Chibi Army. That you could always do that. Like you could do the first version, and then if there's a lot of demand for another version, you could kickstart that separately and maybe make it a smaller Kickstarter. And since you already had all the layout done, you wouldn't need much of a price goal. Then you'd have an easy to make goal to do that. And especially if you knew that you were going to aim for that, you'd be able to tell your Kickstarter people that was kind of the goal. But yeah, so there you go, guys. Rusty iron column. I probably went a little yellow with it. And if you do that, if you are like, okay, well that's cool and all, and it's too yellow for me. You've got too much yellow in there. Then grab your, you can always glaze. So you can grab your reddish brown here, or you can grab your very red, and either one probably works. Why don't I do a mix? And then throw a bunch of water in it, because we glaze very thin. Now this is going to knock down any teal in your iron color. Keep that in mind. With glaze, you want colored water, just like you can see here. Hi, Sharky. You are totally helpful, Real Chibi. You guys are always helpful. That's why I love polling my Patreon about things and what you guys would like to see and what you think, because, so then just paint it over the whole surface. And since you're putting a red-brown, orangey-brown, red-brown over it, it will knock that yellow down. It'll still keep the highlights, but they'll be tinted a little bit more orange. You could also go and do a muted. This is a pretty saturated rust, but you could also do a more muted version if you used like burnt orange with your ruddy leather and just a little bit of sunrise to pick it up. But yeah, so then I glazed it, and that knocks down my yellow fair bit. Gonna blow on it, dry it off. And if I decided it was still a little bit too bright, then I could get in and, like it's really bright up there, but it's also a little bit wet. So yeah, I'm glad you like it, Sharky. I didn't quite get to the bronze and verdigris. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. I haven't decided. But, and then there's just your basic. Now, you could combine these two things. I kind of did the highlighting on one side and the rust on the other, but it is not, they are not antithetical to each other. So if you want a little bit of rust over here mixed in with your blue-white highlights, you can do that. Okay, yeah, go paint, Real Chibi Army. That's always my hope, right? Is that I get you guys psyched to paint. Because when I do these streams, I come off of it like really wanting to sit and paint my stuff. So that's what I hope for you guys, is that when you watch these streams, you get inspired and you run home, or you later today, you whip out the paints and make some progress. Because that's if it inspires me, I hope it inspires you. Because doing these little tutorials for you guys is super fun. So then we're going to bring up our little rust there. So if you want to keep it more subtle, you can. Remember to put a couple of flecks here and there, because it wouldn't just be in two patches. It's probably all over the place. And this is actually, I sculpted some rust on there at the bottom and I forgot to paint it. Let's put a lot of red over it. So I probably want to dull down that white highlight if I'm going to make it this rusty, because it's not going to look right. So I'll grab a glaze of my black color, thin it way down till it's colored water really, and put it over. There we go. That's much thinner. Remember not to just put your brush full of glaze on there. Unload your brush, pick some up, paint it over the area you want to dull down. There. It's a little duller. There, that dulled it down quite a bit. So good. Discernment, that'll have to be a tutorial for another day. So I'm almost out of time today, so I can't go into marble. But I do have another side of this. I actually have an entire other pillar. So if you guys want me to do marble effects, I can do that this week. I'm kind of, I love doing terrain, so I'm kind of grooving on this whole painting a pillar thing. It lets me show a bunch of different stuff to you guys. I need to thin down that orange just a little bit. If you're getting too much coverage and your dots seem too chunky, do add some more water to your orange. But what color of marble should I do if I do a marble, guys? What color? What color marble? What color? Yeah, terrain is so much fun to paint, Jeffrey Higgins. I love painting terrain. I have some really cool terrain pieces sitting up on my shelf that I'm super psyched to put paint on finally, now that I have more time. So yeah, totally feel that. There we go. Up, there we go. Let's see, we've got a vote for pink, a vote for bluish teal, a vote for white green. Okay, so pink, blue teal, or green and white, guys. Oh, tomorrow verdigris first before I do marble? Okay, I can do that. I can stay on topic, I swear. Black marble is one of the easiest, because you don't have to do much to it. We might have to do a poll on this one, Justin. It seems like I got too many marble colors people want to do.
All right.
Well, let's see. First we have to isolate. We got white, black, green, teal, pink. Let's do that. Okay, so let me write that down on a sticky note and put it in front of the camera. 1 second. White, black, green and white, blue, teal, and pink. You guys really want to do pink marble? It's just ridiculous. But you know what? Ridiculous is what we are. All right. So these are the choices, Justin. White, black, green, white, blue or teal, and pink. Can we actually do that as a poll? 5 options?
Yes, we can actually. I'm gonna try something real quick.
Sure. You do that while I continue to work on Rust. As I am working on these guys, this little bits. I had to bring this color up on this section, and I got to bring it up down here too. Cakey bits. Cakey bits. Probably need a bit more.
Okay,
cakey.
do you want to tell me what the read the colors off to me real?
All right, number 1 will be white. Number 2 will be black. Number 3 will be green and white. Number 4 will be blue or teal. And number 5 will be pink. Marble colors. Marble colors for a tutorial later this week. Maybe tomorrow, because it won't take long to do the verdigris. We've got some good rusty bits. See, now that's starting to blend in more. Gotta wait for Justin to set it up, guys. Otherwise, I won't count your vote. We want it to count your vote. Gonna put a little highlight on here.
I actually just put it in. It's a part of the Twitch chat because I know they do polls. So I'm trying the. I think you just choose.
Oh yeah. So if they already typed in a number, it should count.
No, it doesn't use numbers. You just choose it like an option. Yeah.
So
and actually, I put in a fun little feature because I know people have got lots of channel points. If you want to add more votes to your choice, you can use 50,000 channel points because we've got a lot of people with a lot of channel points.
I see. Okay, so what did they type in chat then? Oh, drop down.
I believe, yeah, it's just.
I see. What should the marble be? It's up top. It's up top in stream chat, guys. I see it right now. So vote for what you want to do. What do I want to do? I've never done.
I want to go with pink. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen pink marble painted. I would be impressed to see what that turned out like, and I feel like you could do it. So I want to see it.
I'd have to look up examples of pink marble so that I can make sure it was realistic. So I did some more highlighting up and down the pillars, guys. I'm gonna put a little bit of white down to touch those up.
Everyone vote for pink.
Don't listen to him. Everybody vote for green and white. But pink could be fun. Any of it. I mean, pink pillars are pretty disturbing, so you could use those in an evil temple. Maybe the High Priestess really has a thing for pink.
Yeah, it's like contrast. It's, this beautiful pink marble combined with all the creepy skulls.
So essentially that makes our hypothetical evil High Priestess a 18-year-old goth girl in disguise.
Yes, it's the dichotomy. It's perfect.
There we are. Yeah, I'm actually gonna... Let me see if I can get something to block my natural light a little bit. It's a little sheeny on this thing. I have a thing. Let's put the thing in here and do that. Let's see. There we go. Still a little bit of sheen, but you guys can see now how we did it.
I hear people who vote for pink have cookies, just saying.
Yeah, pink marble was big in the 80s and early 90s, you're right. Just because you're evil doesn't mean you can't have style. You got it. You got it, D. Clearman. Pink has been the new goth color for so long, Glenn. So here you are, guys. Here's your rust. Yay, rust. All right. Yeah, and I managed to block some of my my natural light so you could see it a little bit better. Oh my gosh, Bishop Odo
green and white one.
Green and white one. All right, poll ended. Yep, there we go. 35% of you wanted green and white. Don't worry, we can do pink at some other time. This isn't the only time that I'll paint marble. All right, so this pillar gets to be green and white. Let me circle that. We'll do our verdigris tomorrow. And we probably will have time for both. So green and white wins. And if nothing else, if we do verdigris, and yeah, the verdigris should be fast. I mean, unless I mean, I could show you both metallic and non-metallic, but it's going to be very similar. So we could probably do both. We could probably do verdigris and marble. And we're using similar colors, so, you know, there we go. Yay, pillar. I especially like this side. I think that's really rusty and awful. And I probably would actually glue on more red. Gloob being a technical term. Down near the bottom, because there's so much of it's crusted on down near the bottom. I don't want to see so much black. Yeah, there we go. There would be less black, I think. So essentially, the thicker, the more you cover the black, and the less black you leave showing, the more rusty it's gonna look. Do some pink granite sometime for Texas. I do love painting rocks. Goth is still a thing because goth clubs are still a thing. Because old goths don't die. I mean, if there was a goth club that opened here in the area I'm in, I would totally go and try it out. In fact, one of my friends that I used to go clubbing with in Madison, Wisconsin, opened a goth industrial dance club in Madison, Wisconsin, I think last year. So that was kind of one of his lifelong ambitions. So he actually did it because we lost the old one closed down. So if you're near Madison, I think it's the Crucible is the name that he settled on, and he raised money for it, and they picked a space, and it's near the Capitol. I think it's on the east side. They got a big, nice space for it. Yeah, I mean, they're fun. I mean, I love the music for one, and then, you know, it's fun. I like it. I like it better than house dance. Yeah, the goths are just in their 50s. The old goths, you know they're an old goth when they've got a sense of humor about it, right? The young goths take it too seriously, and the old goths actually have a sense of humor about being a goth. Yeah, I will admit, I do have a pair of Doc Martens and fishnets and a complete clubbing outfit with corset that, you know. I don't think I could drag David to the goth club, though. All right. Yeah, Madison is a good town for that sort of thing. I mean, it's where I went to college. So yes, there you go, guys. Here you go. You got rusty pillar, rusty column. I think I like it. If I had had more, I probably could have done more green work on it to make it more chunky. But yeah, I think it turned out well. I like my rusty column. Now that I've done it, maybe I'll have to do it on a actual, like, you know, model for display. I've gotten over my, gotten comfortable with rust today. Playing with it. But yeah, any other questions, you guys, on rust technique? We will do our verdigris and stuff tomorrow. I really don't mind spending a lot of time with these columns because I think they're fun. Yeah, punk was pre-goth. Cool. Thanks,
Wait,
guys.
punk was pre-goth?
Yeah, I think punk was just slightly earlier. Punk is when they really started acting out, and then I think the goth started up shortly thereafter, if I recall correctly. Because, like, Sex Pistols were definitely punk, and they were, like, before some of the goth industrial, most of the goth industrial I know. Like, but it started it metamorphosed very fast, I think. Yeah, almost 10 years older than goth. Okay, thanks, Valandar, for verifying that. Yeah, industrial was kind of gothy before goth was cool. That's why goth industrial has a slash these days between them and how they're interchangeable in dance clubs. But the two went together really well, right? Because you wanted the drum beat and the ambient. Yeah. Alrighty. Yay! Okay, cool. Well, I appreciated, like, talking dance music with you guys today. Early Cure was 74, 73. The Cure were my favorite band in college, so I have those albums kind of... Well, maybe you're right, and it was actually, like, 70, 71 for the first album. I guess Head on the Door was, like, 85, 84. Yeah, and Susie was right about there with Early Cure. All that sort of stuff. earlier post-punk genres. Yeah, I agree. There was definitely some crossover. Cure formed in '78. Yeah, I was thinking about the albums that I remembered with their production dates. And I missed their reunion tour a few years back, which made me so sad because it was supposed to be amazing. I guess '79 might have been their first album then, Valendar. But yeah. Yeah, I was a huge Cure fan when I was in high school and college. I really loved them. Still think they're great. They were great as far as innovators. Nothing else quite sounds like The Cure. All right. Well, let's rock this. Let's go back to face
Awesome.
cam for a second. Oh no, I forgot to deactivate.
That's fine. It's okay seeing that awesome intro. I wonder
Everybody
who
bow
made
down.
that.
Everybody bow down before Justin's awesome intro. Yay. Well, we did a Rusty column. Yay, Rusty column. Rusty. Yeah, they played for like 4 hours and they played so much stuff. Like, I'm so sad I missed it, Sharky. I'm so sad. They got hugely good reviews in everywhere I looked, pretty much. So, yeah, very sad to have missed the Cure reunion tour. If anybody knows if they do it again, you have to let me know. Because I'll probably miss it, because I'm not like as immersed in media, in music media especially, as I used to be. So I probably would miss the announcement. Yes. Yeah, I know, right? Where's the new music? Maybe the COVID will do it. Maybe everybody being in isolation and having to, like, there's a bunch of artists making really good music right now. I have the time. So maybe we'll get some really good stuff coming out of a bad thing otherwise. Yeah, the Texas Capitol pink marble. Yep. Yes, indeedy. Yeah, I'm so sad I missed it. Oh well. Yay. All
Well,
right. Well, do we
I
have a
have
raid?
a rate. Yes, we do.
Who is it?
Zambies.
Oh, cool. We haven't rated Zambies for a bit. That's cool. Quarantine punk. That would be kind of cool as a genre. Except it'll have to turn punk on its head, right, guys? Because, like, normal punk is all about being alienated, but now we're all being alienated against our wills. So, like, maybe new punk can be the happy, flower, shiny, sunshine genre where they're all, like, being unhappy about being, alienated and isolated, and they want desperately to, like, be happy and together. That would be the anti-punk punk. Oh, dear. Oh, okay. The puns are coming. We got it. We got to do it, Justin. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in today. It was so nice to talk to you all about everything under the sun while we painted iron. I hope you have a fantastic afternoon, evening, morning, whatever you are, and we will see you tomorrow morning for some verdigris and some marble, okay? Have a
And
great one.
hopefully, I'll see all of you this afternoon for Proctor's premiere show. We
Proctor's
don't know what we're going to do.
Proctor premiere. It's the Proctor premiere. That's right. Awesome.
Absolutely.
You know
And
what?
that is 4 p.m. Central.
4 p.m. Central. I'm going to have to tune in for that one, Justin. I'm actually going to have to tune in.
You should, because there's no telling what could happen. There
Exactly.
really is no telling.
And maybe I'll have some questions for him. All right.
And actually, the stream schedule at the bottom should accurately reflect all of our current shows as of right now.
Yay!
Obviously, it could change, but we'll see.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Bye, guys.